Another question from YouTube here. Mel has a question for us.
Since my mother discovered Amazon and Facebook ads, she has been filling our house to the brim with stuff. When I try to talk to her about it, she says it doesn't bother her and tells me I'm mentally weak to let things bother me. I plan on going to grad school soon, and while I don't want to take on student loan debt, I'd feel miserable if I continued to live at home. How can I keep the peace until I move out?
Well, understanding that peace is not acquired, it is uncovered. And it sounds to me like her purchases are covering up your peace, but they're not bothering her peace at all. And so you said, I've tried to talk to her about it, but maybe you don't need to talk to her about it if she is not experiencing the same sort of misery that you are. This doesn't sound like a her problem. And I know this isn't what you want to hear because you were writing into the Minimalists, and the Minimalist should have some sort of prescription to help me tell my mother that she should let go of the excess stuff in her life. And I have identified what is excess for her. But of course, you can't identify what is excess for someone else, because what is enough for me might be too much for you. What is too much for you might not be enough for me. And so clutter is highly individual. And these things, they might actually add value to her life. And she feels judged, and so she's coming back with a judgment for you. And I'm sorry to hear that she's telling you that you're mentally weak. That's not the case here. You have different preferences. You have a different idea of what adds value to your life. You have a different understanding of what gets in the way. And right now, while you're living under the same roof, it seems like some of her things get in the way. Now, practically, what can you do? You can have your own space in which those things don't enter your space. That's a boundary that you set up for yourself. And then within the boundaries there, you can have your own rules. You download the Minimalist Rulebook. It's 16 rules for living with less. It's free. They're not actually rules, though. We don't prescribe rules. I do that because everyone's looking for rules, so we called them rules, but they're really just tools. They're boundaries you set up within your own bounds, but these aren't rules to use to batter someone else with your own preferences.
That's right. You are mentally weak for being bothered by things. That sounds like the kind of thing that someone would say as a defensive reaction to someone trying to change their relationship to things. Hey, your things bother me. You need to get rid of them. Oh, well, you're mentally weak for even being bothered by things. And I think the first step to get out of that kind of scenario is to cease any efforts to get that other person to change their relationship to things for your sake. Let them be who they are. A minimalist isn't someone who is unbothered by things. A minimalist is someone who is unencumbered by things. A minimalist is someone who is free to explore the possibilities of life because they don't have things weighing them down. It was Alan Watts who said that the infinite is not standoffish. It's big enough to include the finite. I would say also that the minimalist is not standoffish, but the minimalist is flexible enough to have room in his or her life for people that love things, right? There's nothing standoffish about minimalism. And so I would say you can keep the peace by allowing her to be whoever and however she needs to be and not trying to change her. And then you can say, all right, this is an opportunity for me to practice the real beauty and power of my lifestyle, which is only revealed when you're in a context where everybody doesn't have to agree with you or be like you. And it sounds like you don't have long to wait. Sounds like grad school's around the corner.
I used to hate when my dad would say, it's my house, it's my rules.
Yeah,
Drove me crazy, but he was right. Like, it's his house, it's his rules. So, I wish I would have taken this approach with my dad rather than just being a rebellious little jerk face. But I wish I could have went to my dad and been like, you know what, you're right. These are your rules. Here's what I feel like I need, and this is what would help me. Help me get along with you better, or help me live a better life in this house, or whatever it is. I wouldn't lay down for him like, this is what you got to do for me. It would be more like, here's what I desire. Is there any way for us to meet in the middle? And you could do this with your mom in the sense of kind of what Josh said. Like, you probably have your own space. that where you can set up boundaries? Is she crossing those boundaries? If so, well, then have a conversation with her. And here's the other thing too, is like, if you're judging your mom or anybody, if you're going after them and saying you should or you shouldn't, or, you know, what you do bothers me, like that is going to create, it's just going to create an argument, and it's a way to escalate the situation. And then they're going to look at you, and then they're going to give you an insult back because they feel like, you know, you've insulted them. So rather than finding a way to tell them what they're doing wrong, try to find a way to tell them what they're doing right. Like, see how you can go out of your way to just support their preferences. I mean, I'm sure there's something, you know, there's some good intention somewhere with your mother. So that's what I would focus on, is how can you support her with the good intentions, start there, and then maybe work into something that creates a little bit more, I don't know, a little less stress in your life. Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalists private podcast available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.